the other one anyways.
Oh,
There you
beautiful.
go.
Excellent. There's a little
Yeah.
5 second time delay getting underway there.
All right. So the big episode 23.
23, yeah. I mean, I missed last week's, but it was very good. I enjoyed that. That was a
You got to be a
nice
listener
little chat
last week.
with the big man himself. It was good. Yeah.
I'm still like slightly annoyed that it was on episode 22 when clearly it was
Yeah,
destined to be episode 21, but the timing didn't
it
work
really
out. But
was.
what can you do? What can you do?
It was
Um,
good. I think you guys like covered some great territory. I think listeners to this episode probably going to be a little disappointed that there's no ambient lawn mowing in the background. That was a feature of last week's episode. I quite enjoyed that. So I've got the doors open though, just in case anyone wants to start lawn mowing outside at
well,
this time,
similarly,
just
I've
in
got a
case.
big window open behind me here, trying to get a bit of a breeze. So
You never know.
let's see what happens. But
But it was
it's
good. I thought you guys covered some good territory. I quite liked, especially like the second half of the episode where you started getting into just, building businesses. And I thought that was good. I thought it was well received as well.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a hard one, right? Because we're obviously there's a lot of focus on things like Nostra over here at Sovereign Engineering, and we have a
Yeah,
whole company called Other Stuff, and it's kind of baked into the pie a little bit that like that's where we're going to end up, but also we don't focus on it to start with because
it's true. It's true.
it's not. I think it's a good way to build stuff. It's going to be a very like empowering technology for individuals, but I'd say right now it's just like a little bit esoteric to use as a sales proposition, whereas people tend to get the uh, the value of AI. But it was good.
Yeah.
I thought it was an interesting conversation, but like honestly, like just walking around like in the blazing sun at lunchtime, recording it with traffic
It
going
was
past you and stuff.
hard
It's
work. Yeah, yeah.
well, you get it like you do get into the flow, like and it works, but it was
Yeah.
yeah,
I
there's a few moments.
quite enjoyed how you guys could be mid conversation and then you'd have to break into a game of real life Frogger trying to cross the street. It's just all sorts of, and like knowing which way to look.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded hectic. Yeah,
But it was good. Much more laid back today. I'm just in a chair, my desk, so that works.
likewise.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I'm glad you guys pumped that episode out. That was enjoyable. So I've got a few more clips to share of that episode as well. So I'll probably just like slow release those over the next week or two. Just
Sounds good.
spread out the content.
All right. Well, let's
So,
pretend we're going to record a podcast today as well. So
well,
when
that's
we
true.
were,
We should probably. So,
so maybe like I don't yeah, I've never really except for last week, right? Like I was being all cryptic about where I was, what I was doing, and then did like a whole episode on sovereign engineering. So, but
yeah.
so I'm over on the beautiful tropical island of Madeira, which apparently is having much better weather than Perth right now. So I've won
Yeah.
in that case. But
Until
look,
next week. Next week, I'll be sat here just in full linen. It's going to be great.
is
But
it pretty hot?
but
Is
this
it
week,
turning? Is it? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good.
oh, it's like just no chill in Perth. Perth, it goes from like wet and miserable to stinking hot, like,
Mm,
essentially overnight. So that's
correct.
what'll happen next week.
There you go.
We got the weather chat out of the way though. Madeira, give us some updates. What's happening over there?
It's nice fixing the internet and AI and social media networking. So it's been interesting, right? There's been a lot of we're focusing a lot on like how we can do more stuff away from computers. Is there different ways to
Yeah.
architect different like internet applications and services so they're more local first and things like this. So like you carry around effectively like a little supercomputer in your pocket at all times. Like why is it effectively a dumb brick that can only talk to Mark Zuckerberg's computer? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like we can do all sorts on this little device. So a lot of people looking at how can we bring more like local data storage to the device? Could you make less engaging forms of social media where you don't feel compelled to look at them all day and you just get like summaries of the day or like newspaper outputs and all these things, different
Yeah.
ways of routing traffic, so you don't necessarily need like IP addresses or fixed IPs or this sort of stuff, which would be very impactful. So it's been it's a very like interesting creative space. There's like, I mean, I launched a new update. Well, one of my proposals to Nostra, which is like Nostra KV Connect, which is a kind of bring your own database to the app system. So, instead of having all of your data publicly published on Nostra or sat in your browser, you can just bring the database that you have at home into the application. So you can have one common application with different backends for each person, which is quite useful for, maintaining secure information and things. So you could have like a Nostra app for your company discussion boards was one of the pilots I did last week at demo day, where instead of the information being on Nostra, you could have a private version. So you plug in a code, and all of a sudden, an extra set of boards just pop up. And that could be your company boards. And then you can interact with them with the same identity and everything else and all the security controls. But the data never touches Nostra. So you don't really see any of the stuff. So way more secure and stuff like that. So yeah, I also did
That's cool.
like a
What's
wallet
your
with.
like? Let me interrupt you there. Like,
Hmm.
what's your feeling about like business use applications for like on Nostr? Like, do you think this is the kind of thing that will get traction with businesses? Because I do wonder sometimes if there's just like too much like complexity baked into getting started on Nostr, and if that's like a reason not to engage with it.
I think right now Nostra it's seen by most people as just like a um, social network. And
Yeah,
there's not, if you're just there for the social network, unless you're in one of the subgroups where there's a lot of people on Nostra, so that would be Bitcoiners, people that like Nostra, and weirdly the Japanese. Like there's tons of Japanese people on Nostra. Oddly. Then it's you might not get what you want out of a social network there. But the interesting thing is that Nostra is first and foremost, really, it's like an identity that you own. So that's nice
yeah.
for social networking because you own all of your posts and you can verifiably show that it was you that posted and whatnot. And you can take your identity across many different apps and it's portable and owned by you. And that's all great stuff, but it's not necessarily a big problem for, like, I think, day-to-day people. So I don't know if we'll necessarily get them with that. Now, the interesting thing is then when you take that identity and you go and log into a new app, and that app now already knows who all of your friends are and who all of your follow
Yeah.
lists. It already has like a wallet that's associated with you because you have money on Nostra as well. And it also automatically has, like a history of things that you've been doing or different services that you've paid for previously. Like that's actually a better experience almost beyond the social network is, if you've spent a lot of time developing a particular network of people and things that you work with, it's useful to be able to move that around and to have that everywhere. So I think longer term, what you will have is a lot more applications that happen to use Nostr for kind of like the authentication side of things and for the back end and for managing some of the data in a way that is less secure. I mean, what you see a lot with a good pragmatic example from why you might want to do this as a business is something like identity theft and securing people's data. Like
Yeah.
it's it's kind of a joke. Like this is only really a problem because we kind of force so much data to be collected in the first place, right? But and then so you force like Facebook or somebody to have everybody's data and then say like, oh, I can't believe you've lost this data. And it's like, well, if you put all the data in one place, then every hacker that wants to exploit that data is going to come after that data, and they'll probably find it. Like it's going to be hard to do it. If you create a massive honeypot, all the bees are going to come. So the actual solution to this is you don't put all the data in one place. You spread it about the place, and you have
Yeah.
it encrypted, and you have it under like the ownership of the individual. And then now instead of hacking like one database in Facebook, I have to hack, like 4 billion individual databases that spread around the world. It's just uneconomical. So you make the defense that much harder. But so I think people will start to glom onto this and realize that, what, I don't want all the exposure and risk of running all of your data and managing it. I'd rather just build services that you can pay for very easily because you have money baked into this sort of protocol at the start. And then you just use them. I won't store any data on you because I don't need to. And then I get rid of all the liability, all the risk, and everything else. And you can just take care of that yourself. So There is like with that comes a little bit of like self-responsibility on the user side. So, it's based on public-private key cryptography. So you are managing like a cryptographic identity, which is a key, which sounds hard, right? But then, there's ways to do this. There's programs you can use. But really, what we're talking about is saying that you've got a secret big password. And if you say it like that, people are
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, well, I deal with passwords. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's achievable, and it's all going to get made easier, and I think people get more used to it. But I think the
I
benefits are
think that's
there
true. Yeah.
is, like you minimize your liability, you can protect your own data, you can verify what you're doing, you can take one identity around on the internet in a way that, is useful to you and under your control. And I think that's going to become more and more useful the longer things go on, and then people will just develop apps for this. Like it's annoying to have different apps to sign into, I don't know, Slack and something else. Like if you just have like you just say it's me, here's my identity, and you bring it to the app, and then the app can go and get what it needs from your public records or from your private records, depending on what access you give it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
It almost sounds like simpler when you describe it that way, like from a
yeah.
user perspective as well. But it
Well,
is kind of fascinating how like vernacular tends to shape a lot of this stuff.
mm,
Like just the mere fact that you might refer to something as a private key, that all of a sudden it's like, oh, what is that exactly? Like I have
yeah,
to try and like conceive of what this thing is in my own mind, and like what risk does that create having to look after or hold on to that. And like
mm,
the entire animus shifts like the moment you just describe it as a password. It's,
yeah. I mean, and I have like a bunch of sub accounts that I manage like in a password manager and just treat them like that. And they're not. Like
yeah,
not with my main identity. I'm a little bit better at managing that one, but it's it's okay. I mean, again, like the fact
I
that
think, yeah,
these identities and these keys aren't in like one place to be hacked. Like it's
yeah.
like yeah, people can like there'll be stuff that goes out there at some point and tries to hack Nostra identities, but you there's ways we can
Sometimes,
revoke it.
yeah. Sometimes I wonder though, like the decision-making process for a large company is usually just plausible deniability. Is like, is there a big third party we can pin this on
Mhm.
if it fucks up? It's like you almost don't need to worry about the security privacy benefit. It's just like, oh, is there someone else that we can just handball this to if everything goes like balls up?
Mm.
And so I wonder if that's
Well, I mean,
part of the way big companies look at this.
in any Australian company, you have to have like a chief information security officer. One of the roles as the chief information security officer is to go to jail when you have
Yeah.
a data breach. And so, like someone asked me like, "Oh, do you want to be this?" I'm like, "No, no, no, I'm not interested in that."
I'll do without that.
And
Yeah.
so, I think under those circumstances, you start to say like, you know what? I would prefer if we just didn't have this data. If I go to jail because this data has been leaked, the correct thing to do is to not have this data. Like, and this is the nice thing about Nostra is it's very like natural in the way it's been built, in the sense that it's like, yeah, it's my data. It's not your data. Like, I have to give it to you? Well, maybe I can just give you the bits that you need, or something like this, or I can just give you enough access, or I can just prove who I am without
Yeah.
necessarily giving up all the goods of exactly what I'm doing. So it's very useful. Like when you start trying to build apps with this stuff and you realize like, oh, I don't need to implement any identity authorization systems into this. Like I don't even need
Yeah.
your key. Your key can live somewhere else. You just give me a code and I can ask that person to sign this data and then off we go. Like it's very powerful. And I think there's going to be some really good example applications coming out of this. But there's also a lot of just like it gives you a very nice like overlay network for a lot of different things as well. So I've been working. There's a guy Jesus that's made something called Context VM that he's got out there, which is just it's like magic. And I think we talked about this before. Is that like I had like a hacky version of something similar called Nostra MQ, but what I really wanted was a legitimate software engineer to build something similar, and he's kind of done it. And this does like it takes the MCP protocol and then uses Nostra as a transport layer. So one of the benefits of Nostra is that I don't need to expose stuff on the internet. I can just have WebSockets from a computer listening to a relay, and I can get the traffic in and out. So it means I could have like a bunch of like compute services on my machine at home, and I can have like a web app that's just almost like a flat HTML file, and it can now act as though it is a complex web server from that HTML file because it just talks to the things on my home PC. So you can imagine, like, you can have like a single interface that exists on the internet, and it changes completely depending on like what context VMs that you bring of your own into that party. So I think I'll be demoing some stuff around that in the next couple of weeks. Like I'm a big fan of this idea of like, well, what's the minimal amount of app that I need to run to make something useful? And then you as a user can just, you have like a little box at home, and you've got a little app store on there, and you say like, oh, I want one of these and one of these. And then that
Yep.
completely changes the interface of the thing that is available on the screen. So like that I think will be like a nice paradigm. And again, it just keeps like, why not just have the data in your house? Like it's the same way you use
Yeah.
Wingman. It's like, okay, well, I'll just have a thing in my house that just works for me, like nonstop. Like,
Exactly.
do I really want everything I'm talking with AIs to be out in the world, or would I prefer to have like a little box in my house that has a GPU in it that can run local models and can do things on my behalf that are private? Like, that seems, I think that is like
Yes.
massively like appealing to people at the moment as they realize
Oh,
the
absolutely.
same guy that
Yeah.
sells you AI is the same guy that tried to scan 8 billion people's eyeballs. Like it's like, if you
Yeah.
want to, sometimes they just tell you who they are. And you're just like, oh right, you want to scan my eyeballs, like just eyeballs or balls as well. Like how invasive do we need to go here, fella? Like
Yeah. No, that's. I
that's
think you're right. I think everyone's starting to figure. Well, not everyone. Obviously, we live in a bubble, but people are starting to figure out that you want AI on its own computer, and then you want to be able to kind
Hmm.
of manage a squadron of agents, and they
Yep.
just keep solving these tasks and give you daily updates, and
Hmm.
it's like having a little employee that
Well,
lives on a
and
Mac
then
Mini in your case.
yeah, so this has been my goal this week was so every week here we're going to do a new demo. So you've got to effectively invent something new from scratch every week and build it uh, as
Yeah.
part of the contract, which is a thing. And I think the idea was that we can only really do that because we have vibe coding these days, and it only needs to be a demo. It doesn't need to be good. So like, what can we do? So I've done wallets, I've done the discussion boards, I've done like the NOSTR KV Connect. I made like a multi-person betting game with no back end to it, which was like that's hard to pull
Nice.
off in a single HTML file. It doesn't like work usually, but we got it to work. And then we had yeah, this week I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an entire demo from my phone. And so I've been spending the week using Wingman to do all of my code updates, and it really came down to like this was like completely across the board. Like everybody last week was just like, fucking hate Claude. He's just like got off on one, and it's just like I
Yeah.
don't know. Like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Claude Code was like a genius savant, and then
Yeah.
last week he just became like a dribbling idiot, and like
Yeah.
it's just
It's gone full
constantly
dirt.
like building stuff you don't want, or going like, yeah, what I did right is I wrote this test where I just didn't do any of the back end. I just made it all up. And you're like, oh, that
Yeah.
explains why it's not updated correctly then. It's because it doesn't exist. And it's like, yeah, it's good, isn't it? It works. Success. Like I've done everything. You're like, no, that's not success. That's the opposite of success. What the fuck are you doing? And so I got so annoyed at like I think the wallet that I built last week, I built it 6 times. And like I eventually got it over the line by like having to like be quite deliberate in how I built it. And I thought, you know what I'm finding here is that this tool was good enough that it made me very lazy. And then what I need to do is go back to that like slow code
Yeah.
methodology. And I thought, well, I wonder if I can do the slow code approach, but I do it from my phone. So I do pilot, so I like do segregated pilots of different parts of the functionality, make sure they're working. And I take those and then I write up like a script for how to implement it from scratch. And I just very slowly like piece together the Lego blocks And it's been working quite well. I mean, there's definitely been moments where I've had to then, like, so I'm
Yeah.
using, like, my laptop is available for, like, fixing Wingman because I can't do something, or getting myself out of a jam or something like that. And then some of the context VM stuff I set up, like, using the laptop, and that's providing some back end jobs for me now. But it's, yeah, but like the full, like the website for the demo will be from the phone using a lot of like dictation and like letting Wingman do his thing and come out with plans and implementation. I was trying Goose sub agents for a while, and so I have some like recipes that then have like sub recipes. So you have like an orchestrator, and he has no access to write code, although he found a way around that. I was like, come on. But he should be like reading code and dictating plans, and a developer that does the implementation, and then like an architect that you can talk to, and a tester, and another agent who could manage the like the back end terminal sessions, so you can spin up new sessions and then start and restart different apps for me. Because like doing that sort of DevOps stuff is just that's hard from the phone. Some of the testing
Yep.
is just a bit of a pain in the ass because you just it's just way easier to test stuff on a screen than it is trying to like start stuff up, and not your browser in on a phone doesn't really give you the same like console outputs and stuff for checking what's going on and the
Yep.
error messages. But well, so far it's been
Yeah.
pretty good.
Feels like
So I have
there's a
so I
time
have
and place for it, huh?
yeah, so I have this so the goal is I'm building like a bot called Craig David, and and like this joke is going to fall so flat because like nobody gets the background of it
It's
yet. It's a
no
widely like
relation. Yeah.
international audience, but it's going to be um so the concept is in the year 2000 Craig David had a great 7 days. How does yours compare? So you go to the
Yeah.
Craig David bot, and he'll go and get all of your events from Nostra for the last 7 days and display your week. Right, so that's all working. And then the next thing it'll do is that you can pay like a cashew token, and he will go away and do some research. And so he'll take all your 7 days and he'll give you like a funny summary for every day, and then a summary of the week. Of like, so how did your week compare to? And they'll do a comparison of like your week to Craig David's week, who had the better week. Um, And then eventually the next step after that is going to be, can we get it to write, to take all because we've got all the media that's available from your Nostra events as well. So that's like even all your pictures go into the thing as well for when it creates the summary, so you can see what you've been up to and where you've been and all that. And then the final bit is going to be, can I then use like a Goose agent session to edit a video on the fly from your video uploads and imagery that I can then set to the 7 day soundtrack, and then have like a custom rap overlaid. Like I don't know if I'm going to be able to get there, but that's the goal. I,
Nice. I like it.
yeah,
I like it. I like the reference. That's pure nostalgia. Yeah.
yeah. So I've got he's kicking around online now. He's got the little bow selector Craig David face. So, but
I need to, yeah, I need to jump on. I was having a torrid time on Nostra yesterday. I don't know why
mm,
everything was a bit buggy, so I just ended up leaving it.
yeah,
Like I was getting a bunch of, like I put a note out just saying like who's building cool shit with AI
mm,
on Nostra. I want to follow you, and I got some good suggestions in there. But I went to follow like a bunch of people and just outright refused to let me follow
yeah.
a bunch of people on
Oh,
like
weird.
both my browser and also on the phone. So I was just
Mm.
like, I'm just going to leave it. I'll come back to it tomorrow.
I mean, if you were
But
you on like
so
Primal on your phone?
I was on Primal, yeah,
Yeah, because if you go to they have their like little discovery packs. If you go to the discover bit
oh
for
yeah,
those discovery packs, if you go to like the sovereign engineering discovery pack, it's like that's a good one
okay, I will do that.
for people that are building Nostra stuff. But,
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's just about getting some engagement on on that stuff.
yeah, you just need to follow more people, post more stuff. It comes eventually, I think,
That was
essentially.
really it.
Yeah.
I knew a few people would respond to it, so I was just like, okay, cool. Let's get people's suggestions. But no, that's cool. I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that a lot. So have you noticed any improvements in Claude Code like in the last couple of days?
So
Because
I've not.
obviously Anthropic put out a statement about this. So
Yeah, because it is. I've heard this from people like all around the world. Like everybody in
yeah.
here has just struggled with it in the last week or so. So it feels like they definitely nerfed it. Like it gives you that sort of vibe of, are they about to release like a major update or something like? Because it feels like
Yeah.
models always seem to go shit just before there's an
Just before
update.
the new one comes out.
But
Yeah.
to be honest, because I've been using this week, like my focus was on like, all right, I'm going to use Wingman to deliver this thing. So like usually I would have like Wingman for the planning, and then I use Claude for the doing. And like what I thought, right, well, I'll take the opportunity while I'm pissed off at Claude Code to just actually put the
Yeah.
work into making better recipes for Wingman so it can control the code updates as well. And it's definitely a different experience because you see, I mean, you don't even really see in Claude Code exactly what it's up to most of the time. Like when you in Wingman, like it's the goose, like it's just hidden. Like it's really awkward to kind of see what's going on. Um,
Yeah.
but it's yeah, so I haven't really seen too much improvements in Claude Code because I've just not really been using it on the same basis that I would have been last week. But I don't know what's
It's
your experience?
it's it's interesting because I mean I've obviously just been like slow coding. You know, I try to
Yeah.
like be really diligent with that, and yeah, the output, especially in the last week,
Hmm.
it's like just got this inability to follow the plan. Whereas in the past, it would be really meticulous about following the
Yeah.
plan. Like the whole point of like having these design docs is really just to give Claude Code scaffolding, you know, to be able to
Yeah.
navigate through a roadmap. And so that's the thinking behind it. And it's kind of been amazing the last week and a half, actually probably just the last 7 days, to be
Hmm.
honest, how often it will just ignore like huge chunks of the roadmap, skip
Yeah.
steps, build stuff that isn't meant to be there. And so, like, I mean, I think I mentioned I've still got my Cursor subscription, so I just like pull that open and I'll use GPT-5 or Grok 4
Mm.
as a review model to just go through and go, hey, like, what parts have we done? Which parts did we do that appear broken? Like, where have we just created a bunch of like hard coding? Like, what is going on here? Because there's been just breakdowns everywhere. So that yeah, I felt like about 7 days ago, it really started to get like super derpy.
Yeah.
And, but every so often there'd be like, I don't know, there'd be like, it was like prone to bouts of genius, you know, like it was like just utterly derpy. And then every so often it would surprise the hell out of me. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, this is the old Claude, great. And then like 5 minutes later, back to full on derp mode. And,
Yeah.
so that's been the experience this week, and I've just like been smashing through using Cursor as well, and trying to get different models. I honestly think like in the future this will just be something we do. We'll just switch between different models, different days,
Yeah.
different tasks, and you know we'll become more accustomed to it. I think what's surprising about it is like Claude Code is like almost had a monopoly on code creation now for ages.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden now everyone's switching to Codex. People are loving Codex. I haven't really used
Mm.
it
Yeah. A
enough
lot of
to
people here
know.
moved to Codex last week just to get stuff done to fix
Yeah,
Claude Code. It's
that's it.
like as soon as there's a mistake like this that nerfs it, you see how quickly everyone goes, all right, I'll just try 12 other
Yeah.
tools and see which one works. And then you have
Well,
that moment of switch. But until then,
it's
everyone's
not
like, nah,
cheap,
I
is it?
just use this because it works and it's there. And
Yeah.
and it's not clear like where it was that they broke it. Like, was it like are you using like a different DOMA model in the back end to save money? Have you
Yeah.
adjusted the system prompt in some way so that it's
Well, you know
attempting to
they
get
came
more
out
done? Hmm.
they came out earlier today with like a bunch of like basically just said it was like 3 interlocking bugs that have been like persistent for a while. I think the one I can recall was like essentially a bunch of requests would like get rerouted to or misrouted to like to servers with the wrong token limits and stuff like that, and then
Of course.
that would cause a problem. I mean there is like a broader question here around like how much trust you place in a lot of these companies, and like whether or not they are like genuinely being transparent here, or if like the actions are a little bit like nefarious. Because I think you're ultimately, I think like this is all just going to come down to unit economics. Like at some point, they have to make some money,
Mm.
and it seems to me like the way you would try and do this is to like, even if you just say, oh, we're not going to degrade the model, we're just going to make it so that like
Mm.
the tooling essentially does get degraded over time because we reduce the token use like to save money.
Yeah.
And
I, I think your mic is starting
yeah,
to catch on
that's
your jumper a little bit, by the way.
how is it? Okay,
Yeah,
let
I'm
me
getting the thing.
a little bit of feedback there.
Well, just that we are. I
All right,
guess we are
let's.
recording this one, so I'll try and be serious
We
about
are, yeah. The
it.
the ambient rubbing of the mic
Yeah,
noises
yeah.
this week. It's a little different from the lawnmower. But yeah, I kind of do wonder, like, if people just have more respect for companies if they just increase their pricing. Just came out and said, hey, we need to just keep increasing the prices because this is not sustainable. In the same way that,
Yeah.
like, like tech companies have always done this, right? I mean, if you remember back to like when Uber first launched, like rides around town were pretty cheap.
Mm.
And then over time, things just gradually got more expensive to the point where like I don't like I almost don't get into Ubers now because I just find them like prohibitively expensive, and like I could literally revert to getting a taxi, it'd be cheaper. Obviously, quality not great. I'm not going to do that
Mm.
either, but you know what I mean? Just purely from a pricing perspective, it
Yeah.
just feels amiss, and it doesn't feel like I don't know. There seems to be like efforts to be transparent, but then like how believable is this stuff? It doesn't feel very believable, especially when everyone is jumping ship as well. You would think you'd be breaking your absolute backside to just be as transparent as
I
possible. And
I imagine a lot of this stuff is just trying to deal with inflation without admitting the inflation. If you know what I mean? Like it's everything's just
yeah,
got 5 times more expensive in the last 5 years because we printed
yeah,
like 5 times the amount of money that was in the world. So,
yeah,
and then we try and pretend we haven't. And things like anything in the tech sector particularly is, like the price is supposed to go down. So like it doesn't feel like your Uber should be like 5 times more expensive, but really the economics
yeah,
is there's a person in the machine and they're driving it around. So it's the prices are going to have to go up because that person needs to eat food. So, like it's there. And then I think there's probably a lot of not wanting to raise prices in a way that then
yeah.
like forces a degradation of the quality and the service and various things. But as always, like
Comes
just the
back to the money.
government stealing money from you via inflation and pretending that they haven't is the root cause
Yeah,
of like almost all the problems. Like it's just, if there wasn't like a small cadre of people in the world that are allowed to just you know, every few years come up with an event that will steal like 5 times the amount of money in the world. And now, like it's a lot easier to get on with shit. Like if that doesn't
yeah.
happen, like, but we have to have GFCs and various things, and then all of a sudden everybody's surprised why they feel poorer. Like it's like we didn't even tax you. No, no, you stole it in the other way that you use. Just, ugh, it's frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, sometimes I do wonder if like an even simpler answer for Anthropic here is just bureaucracy starting to kick in. I mean, this company is
Probably.
like scaled pretty hard.
Mm.
And I wonder to what degree it's just, oh, all of a sudden we've got like, I think the headcount's like getting up to 1,000 people or something now. It's like, how
Mm.
well do we actually manage that scale? How much time are we just having with people sat in meetings now? Like, I mean, the absolute worst would be people now just going, oh, we need to think about AI safety. And so we can't like allow the model to do X, Y, Z. And so that
Yeah.
means we need to stymie it in certain ways. And I kind of just wonder if this is Occam's razor to some degree. Like, is it just a bureaucratic beast now that
Mm.
it wasn't 6 months ago, or it was just a little bit more manageable, or, there were fewer guardrails to progress 6 months ago? And
Yeah. I mean, this is
yeah,
definitely
I
one of
don't
the
know.
reasons that I got like back into using Wingman and Goose this weekend. Was like, all right, well, like I don't think it's like immediately obvious to a lot of people is there's kind of like two things going on when you use Claude Code. Like one is that there's the actual model that it's talking to on the back end, and like you don't know necessarily that that is the model that you think it is when you're using something like this where it's all baked in. But you also then have like the code that executes on your computer. So like when the actual agent loop is something like it makes a request and says I want to achieve this, and then the model on the back end knows that it has a set of tools on your computer, and if it sends back a certain formatted message, so instead of just saying like, oh yeah, great, that's a great idea, it says tool use, like use, I don't know, terminal to edit file or something like that, and like you don't see any of
Yeah.
those messages, they just like come back in the back end. And so it's not necessarily clear like which bit of the process is the bit that's getting changed here. Is it like the way that is it the way the app works on the computer and interacts with the computer that's changed? Is it like the system prompts behind like the way they're using the models, or is it models? And like one of the things that I think is kind of nice about Goose, and why something like that, like whether it's Goose or OpenCode or some other coding agent, would be the one, is going to be important, is that like, all right, well, I want to know like what the system prompt is that's getting sent, and I would like to know
Yeah.
exactly which model I've chosen and whether that is the one that's running, and potentially even have that local. And then I would also like to know like what the tool calling loop is that is running on my machine, and like have you changed that? Have you introduced new things into that tool calling loop? Like it's very important. But even from like a pragmatic, like getting stuff done point of view, like with Claude Code, like is that they just changed stuff last week, and everybody I know became like 10x less productive. And it's
Yeah.
like that shouldn't happen, right? And then everybody that was using Goose was already 10x less productive, so it's fine. No. But nothing changed for those people because they didn't update their settings. And so it's very
Yeah.
meaningful to think like, okay, well, who gets to update the settings on my workflow? Is it me, or is it just like
Yeah.
some guy in San Francisco or somewhere? Like it's like you want, even if you can't like bring all these models like internally, there's a lot of like a sovereignty that you can get over that stack just by choosing your software differently. But it was quite eye-opening for me that it's like, all right, I don't want this variability of
Yes.
now Claude Code's just going to decide to change stuff. And so like I think I'll probably just cancel like my max subscription to Claude there and just go back to a standard $20 and it's like, all right, well, I'll use it intermittently when I want to get something, like if I've got a piece problem that I want to get looked at. But I don't think I need to be giving you like hundreds of dollars a month because I'm not just running this forever. Like whereas previously it would be like, here's
Yeah.
like just a screen full of Claude Code agents, just like do stuff, minions. And it would kind of work out in the end. Where it's like, nah, it's like I think I need to go back to you need to be involved in the loop. So this, I mean,
Yeah.
this is the big difference this week is I actually know how this application works, and it works how I've designed it, and I know it does because I built every component of it slowly and slowly in the way that it would be like, all right, just give me a website. Okay, now give me a website that displays this. Okay, right. No, that didn't work. No, why doesn't it work? Okay, okay, let's fix it. That's how we get it to work. Right, now that worked. Okay, give me a button. What does the button do? Don't worry about that. Just give me a button. Okay, we've got a
Yeah.
button. Okay, right. Now when I click the button, I want to post to this endpoint. That doesn't exist. Don't worry about it. Like, let's do that. Okay, I can see that it's failing. Right, okay, now we're going to build that endpoint. Like it just, and you step through it
Yeah.
just slowly, but it's almost like that quick that like it's it's not quite as quick as you can describe the system. It comes into being, but like it's not far off. But you can use it in
Yeah.
this interactive way where you do slowly describe the system into being. But I don't think you can just describe the end system and expect it to get there. Like this still feels like the bit that's missing is you can help me plan, you can come up with ideas, you can give me PODs and all this stuff. You apparently, Claude, OpenAI, whoever, like you can't take this plan and then slow yourself down and implement it. And like we was the saying we've been using a lot over here is like Claude Code is like a dog with two dicks. And that's the idea of like this thing just wants to code and you cannot stop it coding. And it's just gonna fucking go for it.
I,
So,
I love that you're like ascribing that to the collective over there now. Like I feel like you've been using that for like a few months.
yeah. We also
That's
introduced,
definitely one of yours. Like I feel like that's one of your sayings for sure.
yeah. I mean, we also introduced we're not here to fuck spiders as a concept
Good,
at the start
good.
of the cohort when I gave my one of my initial talks, which was obviously a reference to the idea that we should really focus on problems that need to be solved and just doing the minimal stuff. And Gigi had a similar approach to saying, look, we want full left curve solutions here. Like there's the things that are going to work and the things that are going to get adopted are going to be the things that are so simple that they can just be put out there and they can be iterated on and they can work.
Yeah,
Don't mid curve it. Don't over engineer stuff. Don't make something like 10 times more complicated than it needs to be because that would be better. Or like don't overdo the thing. Just full left curve, full grug mode. Like
yeah,
how do I do this in the minimal amount of stuff? Do I need like can I just
yeah.
reuse everything that's already available? So, but yeah, and the fucking spiders is just, do the thing that's actually going to be meaningful to the world. Don't just create the next, best way of doing a particular software implementation. That's it's fine. Like you can fuck the spiders if you want to, but it's not what we're here for.
One of
But
our three core values at other stuff.
yeah, the best values in the business, I would say. But
That's it. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's good to get a little bit of Australiana over there in Madeira. It's good
yeah, yeah,
representing.
it's gone down well. Let's say it's very like international cohort. Like it's interesting. There's a lot of good ideas coming out. So I think the next few weeks of demo days are going to be getting better and better as well because now we see people starting to build on each other's ideas and bring more stuff out. So which can be cool.
Yeah. No, that is cool. Yeah. No, I like this idea of like not mid curving. That's usually good advice. I think that's just a good one to follow in general.
Well, I think it's a tendency I've had in the past as well, which is
Yeah.
just design stuff correctly and not just move with it. I know, well, back in 2019 or something like that, I think it was, I was working on like eCash solutions for Bitcoin. It was like an idea. So I just thought, I think this is where we're going to end up in the future. And this is pre-Fedi Mint and Cashew and all that. And I just thought, well, there's no way that anybody in Bitcoin would use this unless it is trust minimized. So I need to find a way of like linking these eCash tokens to the underlying Bitcoin and some sort of claim where you can't just be stolen from and all this. And it was just like,
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like there's going to be a way here, but I can't quite figure it out. And then the Fedimint launched and it just didn't care and used like the federations to provide a slightly better trust model. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That kind of does the job. And turns out people are okay with it. Like, what was I doing all that extra work for? Trying to be clever. And then Cashew came out and he didn't even bother federating stuff. It was just like, yeah, here it is. And you're like, you know what? This is fine. Like it's
It
just
does the job. Yeah.
let's just go with the left curve solution here. This is good enough. This is good enough to build a better global payment system than we have right now, with less trust and way more secure. So maybe we just like, get a 10x improvement for the world as a
Yeah.
minimum, and then we can always carry on later. But like, let's
I
just get it built.
I feel like the tendency to want to mid curve is a byproduct of thinking you need to follow a set of predetermined rules
Hmm.
when you're starting a business. And like, I think we've all done this to some degree. I've certainly done it in the past as well, where you're like, if this is going to succeed, I need to go and raise X amount of capital. In order to get X amount of
Hmm.
capital, I need to prove out that ABC works, and that just might be like stupidly over engineering the solution to this problem, but we'll go and do it anyway. And often like you do stuff like that at the expense of actually just going and building like the thing that works
Yeah.
and getting some customers using it and just proving it out. Yeah, there's a lot of mistakes just baked into repeating the dogma sometimes, I think. But yeah,
Yeah, I
that's the
know.
tendency now as well, is just to find like the lightweight version of whatever it is I'm trying to build. Like I can have like a big idea in my head and it's like, okay, let me just deconstruct this down. And there's not even like, I don't think that's like even like a minimum viable product approach to stuff. It's just like, it's like, what is the optimal approach? But like, does it need all of the bells and whistles? Probably not. Let me just strip all of that out. I just need
Mm.
it to do this one thing end to end.
So I always thought of it as a bit like it's like a combination of a tall poppy syndrome and then a like an ego issue for me, where it was like on the one end, I want to prove that I'm being all clever. So that's like the ego thing that's coming out instead of
Yeah.
just focusing on like the core problem and getting it solved. It's like, oh no, I want to show everybody like how smart I am. So there's a bit of that going on. And then but then there's also the tall poppy thing of like, oh, but I'm like, who am I
Yeah.
to do this? Like so like surely it's only gonna like anyone's only going to take this seriously if I do it so well or so smart that there's this like magic piece that no one's thought of that means that I'm allowed to do it. And it's like, well, it turns out you're allowed to do whatever you want. You can
Yeah.
just do stuff. Like, and I just should have done that
Yeah.
for years. Like, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
very true. I
frustrating that
mean,
I
I
have
think that
to learn
imposter
all these lessons
syndrome's,
so late in life. No,
I mean, we're still young, Pete. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't always feel that way,
we've,
but
we've got time. We're good.
yeah.
I know what you mean though. Like it does feel like everything is just like a mad rush these days.
Mm,
Like admittedly, I've been like Claude coding obviously a lot less for a bunch of reasons, but like it was almost a bit nice the last few days because it's just switched priorities. I've obviously been like spending a bit more time on some stuff for the business and some content,
mm,
and started building like an e-commerce site because I was like, we need merch. Like obviously, we need to channel the vibes and the taste
mm,
making, and everyone needs some of the merch. So I was like, oh, this would be a cool project. Like, and also we've kind of talked about web deployments and stuff like that in the past. And I
mm.
was like, how hard can it be? Just straight out of the Jeremy Clarkson school of thought, and just dived straight in. And it turns out that it's not that difficult,
Mm.
but you can actually make a bunch of errors, which I did make with Claude Code that I'm now trying to fix with GPT-5. So fingers crossed, we have
Yeah,
an e-commerce site coming soon. But it's been
nice.
nice to just do something a bit
Comments that
different.
we should
Yeah, because we need
we
we
need some
need a
hats.
range of physical products. Yeah, yeah,
We have hats and t-shirts. I could do with some new t-shirts.
it's true. Get
Uh,
your pre-orders in.
yeah, that was
So
interesting.
it was good. Like it's been good to just like obviously like spending some time with some content as well just means spending more time thinking,
Mm,
which has been good. And I've been looking at the rate of failure in AI pilots, which
mm,
has been doing the rounds. This is an MIT study that's been doing the rounds the last couple of weeks, and they were suggesting that it's upwards of 95% of AI pilots
mm.
fail,
I mean, I assume it's a
and
scoping issue, right? Like it would be.
that's my thesis. That's not
Yeah.
theirs.
No, they
And
wouldn't
to
say
be,
that.
no, I think a lot of the takes I've seen on this has been like somehow suggest. I know we've just been bagging the technology all episode, but I think a lot of people are framing it as a technology failure issue, and like I think my take on it has just broadly been, I know it's just a systems design and systems thinking issue. Like it's actually just an implementation problem for
Mm.
the most part.
Yeah.
And really, what you're trying to do is apply this old framework of digital transformation to a new technology. And it's like, what we'll do is we'll get more tooling and we'll just sling it at pre-existing processes that we've basically been
Mm.
running for a couple of decades. And we'll throw a new form factor of technology at this thing and hope that it works. And I just don't think that's going to work. I think like it's the wrong approach, but it also misses this like really massive opportunity to just go, how are we doing these things? What could we be doing with AI?
Mm.
And I think that is like just such a massive opportunity, but it also just reinforces in my mind that like a lot of people are just going to start these kind of challenger companies that are AI native from day one that just go and outcompete some of these bigger businesses while they're kind of dicking around trying to figure out what the best way to implement the
Well,
technology is.
I mean, having worked in a bunch of these bigger companies and a bunch of their like innovation style teams, like the way these things come around is that they go, we need an AI strategy and we need an AI pilot. And like somebody that doesn't really understand that technology but is good
Yeah,
at talking about stuff will come up with an idea that's probably nonsense. Like, and you could fail the project right there. Like, say, right, okay, we can save all the money, we'll just not do it. This is just fucking nonsense. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. The tool. This is not how you'd use this. It's not going to make any sense. And then you'll get a team that doesn't quite really understand the tools and doesn't really use them very much, and they'll attempt to do it. And then, like, I don't know. And then you'll like weigh it up a few years later, and you're like, well, like, what's the chance that this was ever set up for success in the first place? Like, you don't even need the thing. Like, you haven't like identified a core problem, and you don't understand enough about the systems and the capabilities to know, well, do the capabilities of this system map to that problem or not? It's all generally very surface, and it's done to just quickly spin up some projects, and you'll have some like,
yeah,
usually the guy there's got some mates in a consulting company, and they're going to come in and they'll charge big fees, and it's only a few hundred
yeah.
grand anyway, so who cares? And like, it's just
It's a big
money
circle
just getting
jerk.
pissed up against the wall for nothing. And then you've got like the startup version, which is just they just go,
Yeah.
all right, this is the new theme, spray and pray, and like it's just designed to be pissing money up against a wall from. It's so frustrating because there's like so many like good. Like, it's one of the things that comes out of being here is there's like a lot of very, very good, very smart, very principled people trying to build stuff that just don't have access to any funding, and there's
Yeah.
just millions being pissed away on just fucking nothing. It's not going to
On
help
nonsense, yeah.
society at all, and like I can't solve that right now, so I'll just laugh at the absurdity of the whole thing, and then yeah,
Yeah.
continue to hang around with all the weirdos who just do it for no money, just for the love of trying to make the world a better place. But
You
we'll
know, I
see.
do I do think there's like the other side of the coin on these pilot failures is it got me thinking that I actually think like we need a new way to actually determine whether these things are successful, because
Yeah.
I suspect that like a lot of the kind of traditional metrics for return on investment are going to be a little bit broken,
Mm.
because like there's an assumption that's baked into traditional return on investment that like assumes that value creation is additive, right?
Mm.
You like we've talked about this with companies as well. It's like, oh, we can save a bunch of time on a per task basis, and therefore like times that by the number of tasks that you would be doing within that process, and then you can roughly work out what the cost saving is, right?
It's a
And
classic
then
never
that's
realized benefit.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that the difference now is there's like a kind of like a compounding value creation opportunity here where like I don't know, like each component like amplifies the others
Mm.
in a way that compounds if you bake in the technology correctly. So like in that example, like with task, like automating like a particular task and you save a bunch of time. Well, it's like, okay, well, there's the opportunity cost of where you then go and deploy that saved time. So what are
Mm.
you actually creating on the back end of that? And how are you baking that into the return on investment calculus
Yeah.
for how you automated that other process? You probably haven't, because the benefits of the opportunity cost are going to be way downstream. And then there's like, I don't know, what is that like? Let's use an example. Like the one I was thinking of earlier today was like using AI for document review. Like if you're a lawyer or
Mm.
accountant or something like that. This seems like a very like straightforward use case. It's like, okay, so you're going to get like pattern recognition benefits over time. That's going to then lead into like risk assessments that are going to become like more efficient. You're going to get like, I don't know, if you're an accountant, maybe it leads to faster deal structuring and better terms,
Yeah.
the ability to take on more complexity in your client files, which leads to new service offerings and more customers and market expansion. Like, how do you factor all of those things in your return on investment calculus? Like, I would argue you can't. Like, it's like how do you account for the things you just don't, that haven't yet emerged when you're
Mm.
actually doing that implementation? So there's like a bunch of like downstream benefits, and if you have this like time scale for working out when the return on investment needs to be realized by, well, you're basically just kneecapping yourself, because the expectation is like, oh, we've got to get this return within 3 to 6 months, or like on based on some
Mm.
reporting cycle. And it's like, well, you're just not going to manifest those benefits that quickly, because they're going
Yeah.
to compound.
I mean, yeah, I think that's pretty true. I mean, it's hard to know like how people are setting up these pilots and like how they're defining those benefits. I mean, I would usually for stuff like that, I would be thinking that these returns are going to appear over the course of like several years. So we need some, leading indicators to understand like, are we actually hitting the things? And
Yeah.
that you might get in 3 months, but like I think more than anything, like I think we talked a bit about this offline as well, was that I just wonder if I'm mentally further down the track than I think most of society is, and that there's like a mismatch between, like what do we need with AI right now? And it's like I think because in the coding space it's quite advanced because you've got the right sort of people coming together. They're all interested in tech anyway. They're acting on it. They're using it all day, like every day. And then you have like outside of the coding space, people use AI. It's become a thing. It's there. We can talk to computers. They can do searches and stuff. But for the most part, like I think there's like a big difference between like, what agents can do for you versus like your experience of using ChatGPT. And I wonder if like, we say like pilots, like, I don't know if we're really in the pilot stage right now. Like I probably like 6 months ago, I would have said, yeah, yeah, like it's strategy and pilots. Let's get going. Like we know how these things work. But that only works like if there's like enough knowledge in the market that people understand what the potential opportunities are with this thing in order to correctly formulate the pilots where you can map your problems back into like things that AI can solve. And like you can do it very like high level of going like, yeah, I'd love to be cheaper and use less people. Like, yeah, everybody
Yeah.
would love that. But then like your ability to actually execute on that isn't that simple in most cases. But I really think that right now the thing that the world needs is like actually good training and like explanations of how these things work. Like I actually feel like we're probably even a bit too early for potentially writing strategies on these things. Never mind. And I feel like
Yeah, yeah, I
so
think
I
so.
I could sort of see that like it makes sense that the pilots would be bad right now because I think people are just misapplying the technology. And I
Yeah,
think like
I agree.
because
I
even if
think
you
you're
took
going to
like
see
a
though, like,
sorry, you
no, I was going to say, like, I think the one thing that, like, this is probably like the dirty secret is I think a lot of people inside of companies are using AI, and they're
go.
probably just not admitting to it. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably going to be a significant percentage of people. Like, I don't want to guess at a number, but if I
Mm.
had to, I'd be like, it's north of 70% of people are using AI in
Yeah.
some, and that might just be ChatGPT to help them do aspects of their existing work, right? And they're just not talking about it because they don't want people to know. And I just think,
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you're right. I agree. I think there's like you obviously want like better training, and we're still in this chat modality, right? It's like how do we just
Mm.
implement chatbots inside companies? I think that's like I don't know. This feels like a really like horse and buggy approach to AI, and I think we need to break out of that pretty quickly. But if
Well,
people don't know what we're capable of just
mm.
yet, then they won't be thinking about it. They'll just be thinking about the modality that's in front of them. And that's where I think training is useful. I almost think like just going in, like we've talked about like a speed run as a concept in the
Mm.
past, just going through and like almost like taking like a mini version of what you guys are doing now at Sovereign Engineering and just running that
Mm.
inside the enterprise and going like, right, here's a week, let's just go and build a bunch of stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like pure creativity and experimentation and learning and see what comes out the other end of it. It's like a bit of a hackathon, but with these on the tools essentially.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that you can do. Like you need to use these things and you need to use them in the more sophisticated manners. I think like this is definitely going to be a bit of a development roadmap for me on Wingman is like how can I make a lot more of these just um what do I say non-coding agent type tasks and workflows just more available and appealing to people.
Yeah.
Like it's because it is magic, like what these things
Yeah.
will do. Like I have my own, like I can do the deep research type loops that you would get in Claude Code and OpenAI. I have that running from just Wingman, but it'll build it out in like a lovely, like a nice deep document store in Obsidian of like everything that's available to me on the island over here. And it's like, ah, cool.
Yeah.
That's more useful than just having it inside like single report. Like I don't need a single report all the time. Sometimes I actually just want you to keep me updated on what's going on. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think that's the right focus though. Like I think it's hard to get these pilots correct if the people that are going to then sign off on the pilot and what you want to do don't yet aren't bought in. Like it's
Yeah.
so I think
Especially
you'd
if
have
you,
like this board level, like, oh yeah, we need one of these, we need a NAA strategy. Like what's he going to do? All right, we'll do a pilot and we'll figure it out. And it's like, you're not going
yeah.
to figure anything out. Like you need to, like the pilot needs a real problem and a real opportunity, and there's probably a preceding step here that you need to go through
Yeah.
to just, and like again, these tools are really good for this because you can build shit quick. And like it just so I just wanted to call back. I forgot about this, but like, when you said like we've been ragging on the tools, it's like it is worth pointing out that it's like maybe I used to be like a productivity 1, and I went to a productivity 100,
Yeah.
and I've come back down to a productivity 90, and my complaint is
Yep.
that I've come back down a little bit, and I've had to pay
That's so
attention.
true.
It's like this is my complaint. It's like God, I have to like check in on this thing like every 5 minutes. It's like I'm every 5 minutes I have to do my job instead of every like half hour I have
Yep.
to do my job is the main complaint that I've got at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I
Completely
can't
spoiled.
be
Yeah.
too down, too down. It's like I
It's
can't
so
work for a
true.
full day without me checking, without messing up. And it's like, yeah, most like junior people couldn't do that. They'll just wasted.
Exactly.
They'll just do
Yeah.
something else. They go do the thing that interests him. Maybe they are like sentient, and he's just like, but if I just fake this test, then I can go and do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. More human than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's, I think you're right. There's the animus for the return on investment. I think that's
Mm,
the first problem. It's like if you're in a position where you need to somehow substantiate the return on investment within like a very short time scale,
mm,
that's problem number one. Like I think you're setting yourself up for failure there right off the bat.
mm.
And then the second one is the availability of like expertise that can actually go and set this stuff up correctly and actually
Yeah.
design these systems from scratch and figure out how to do that. And I would argue that if you are particularly skilled at being able to do that and you're particularly proficient with the tools, why would you consult? That'd be the first question that pops into my head. Mainly because, and maybe there's like that's a safety and comfort thing, but like if you're particularly proficient with it, why would you not build? That
Mm,
just feels like that's where all the leverage is, and you're uniquely positioned to go and take advantage of it.
mhm.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So that's the next thing. So that necessitates that there's a lack of skills and expertise in the market to actually help you execute anyway. And then the next one is just like these kinds of companies that were self-reporting in the MIT study. They're big bureaucratic beasts. These do not have cultures of experimentation, which is kind of what you need
Mm,
if you're going to run a pilot. Like it is by design an experiment. We're going to try something completely different, and we're using new technology, and we're taking a big risk on this. And so if you're going to do that, maybe consider there's like the Netflix incubation model. Build the workflow, build the part of the business off on the side, away from your business as usual, get unique talent in to run it that isn't caught up in your day-to-day, and go about it that way. And yeah, that might be the only way to go and execute on this stuff effectively. But yeah, I think ultimately it's going to be really difficult. And the only thing I would say is like when you see headlines like that, just I'm filled with a lot of confidence because it just means like guys like us can just go and keep building stuff, and the big incumbents are going to continue to do what they're doing, and that's great. It's great for us.
yeah. Like I feel like there was we've had the conversation tons of times about like, well, what is the answer here? Is it like a buy versus build thing? And more I'm swing towards the build because I don't know if there's
Yeah,
really people are focused on this or not enough. Like, I think you probably do have the time to build and then capture market share as opposed to needing to buy these companies out. Makes more
yeah, I think
sense.
so. I think it. I think we're also in like a really unique time where you've essentially got carte blanche on like where to focus because there's inefficiency everywhere. You know,
Mm.
like it's really about like what problems you want to go and solve and like what problems are you actually drawn to that you want to solve, because that's the other thing. It's like it's not work, there's no upside to working on something that isn't really all of that. It's not motivating to you. It's not going to keep you up at night
Mm.
thinking about it. You're just going to kind of give up on this stuff pretty quickly because it doesn't light you
Yeah.
up in any way. So
There's an
the energy
interesting
has to be there.
there's an interesting Tim Ferriss podcast this week where he had this guy called Pavlos something or other, but it was like an old hacker that's turned into like a venture capitalist sort of thing, like doing things with Blue Origin and all these like big bets on things. But it was but one of the comments he talked about was like, like when we think about that sort of like future looking investment and deep tech, like people think of Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley has just been obsessed with SaaS systems and software and stuff. And
Yeah,
he said like there's like 2 to 3% of the world's economy is software. Like these are very big businesses, but it's not the money. It's not all the money in the world. Like, the shipping industry is, like 4 times as
yeah,
big and burns most of the money that it spends like every year just on fuel. Like energy and shipping and just deep comms and like there's all sorts of problems that need to be resolved in the world that we just haven't really attacked in the same way. And it made me think about like, yeah, I think this is potentially where there is a big AI component. It's not necessarily that it's like a software play so much as it's a if we can get these things to do human tasks, like it just like any industry, you can just take like a massive
yeah,
swing at and just do it way more efficiently. There's even without taking on the tech risk of just does this work or not, we can just take off the, like standard. Yeah, like I do think there's just but I'm starting to get a little bit conflicted as well, right, on the human at the edge versus bionic human type thing, where
yeah,
it makes sense to me that the end game is most likely human at the edge, but maybe there's more of a path dependency for bionic human work than is immediately
yeah.
obvious, and
In the
you
short
might
term,
be
yeah,
better off. Yeah, but it might make a lot. But maybe the point there is maybe I always figured that bionic human is definitely more achievable at the short term. But I'm starting to wonder if it is more of a dependency. Like maybe you don't even get to the human at the edge stuff without going through the bionic human bit. It's like you start by replacing bits of the human,
yeah,
and then your humans are very productive all of a sudden. I mean, because this is sort of what is happening in the coding, right? It's not, people are still, what we realize
yeah,
is there is a bit here that just doesn't seem to be automatable at the moment. So it makes sense to just automate the bits that do and then keep the human. And the human is very much in the middle right now.
yeah,
But the humans are getting, like 100. You just, we're building new things, like inventing and then building new things part time every week currently. Yeah, like it's just
yeah, exactly.
nuts. Like it's amazing, like what you can get done. And this isn't just like shitting out a new website. Like it's like that you could do in. I could probably just automate that whole thing. Like I don't think I would pay for a website to be built again. Like it's just like
Yeah,
this is dead. I could just create one from scratch in minutes. Like this is not hard.
yeah,
Um, but like yeah, like it makes me wonder if I was just maybe I've been a bit off on that in the past, and there is a little bit more to be done with the bionic human stuff, but
I think there's some truth to that. I also think it's like very much like role dependent, business
Mm.
dependent as well.
Yeah.
So I think the framing we've used in the past is like you, you need to like identify the optimal human placement.
Mm.
And so the optimal human placement in like a particular workflow might be that it needs to be more of a bionic human where they're sat with the tools. You've got an individual sat with the tools and is able to just do 30%, 50% more than they were able to do previously. And there may be aspects of that where they now no longer need to steer the tooling and they can go and sit off on the edge.
Mm.
And so I do think there's like an interrelationship here. I don't necessarily think it's a binary choice between the two. But I do think that you're right, it's probably in the short to medium term. And maybe that is like still 5, 6, 7 years, who knows, where you've got an individual that is still at the terminal doing the bulk of the steering
Mm.
with a bunch of like AI agents that they interoperate with. But I do think it's like very, you know, context specific. So the challenge is in finding what's the ideal weighting for bionic versus human at the edge. And that's a
Mm.
callback to, I don't know what episode it was. Maybe it was like episode 2 or 3. It's like an early episode. We talked
Feel like
about
maybe
stuff
like a 3 or 4 or
in
something
a lot of
like that. Yeah.
detail. Might be, yeah. So if anyone's still listening, all 2 people, go back to episode 3. And if you are still listening, chances are pretty high that you listened to episode 2 and
Oh,
3
you
anyway. So,
should like and subscribe.
oh, very
There
good.
you go. We got it in.
There you go. You got it
We're
in. You got it in at the end.
professional
We should,
podcasters.
we should like bake that into the intro because that's when the bulk of people are still listening.
Ah,
You know, I think they.
they'll find it if they want to listen. They'll find it. But
That's solid as always. Solid
mm,
stuff as always. I think we're at like over an hour, so I think
yeah, yeah.
we probably hit our rant limits. To be honest, there's no such thing as a rant limit with us, but there's an acceptable limit for everyone else's tolerance. It's probably a more accurate way of
So I
putting it.
think
That's
we
why
could
it's a
have
weekly
like
podcast.
a solid YouTube like open map thumbnail of just called is fucked. It's like I think that would work. And then we get into like how it's not. It's all about wingman. He's wingman instead.
It's all about wingman, yeah. Subtly seeding wingman. I like it.
Mm.
That's the growth strategy right there.
All right. All right. Well, let's call it
I like it.
that's the good stuff. And then stop this one. It's not stopping. It's not. All right. I mean, I've stopped it like locally on the machine, but let's see if this just doesn't. I just hit the button and it doesn't do anything.
Just going to continue.
Yeah, there we go. I guess we'll just have to podcast forever. So why isn't this like? I literally got a stop button. I press it and it does nothing.
I mean, we've just been like
The
ragging
other
on
buttons
text.
do anything? Like what the fuck? Like none of these buttons are. I'm gonna hit the leave button and see if that
Just the
works.
leave button will do
Yeah.
that.
No, I can't hit the.
Let me try hitting the leave
It
button.
doesn't do anything. Oh, you've gone.